Step into Washington's earliest days, where coal towns rose in rugged valleys, pioneers carved homes along wild rivers, and the first governor took his oath beneath a wooden dome. These rare photographs transport us to a frontier state just finding its voice, rooted in resilience, ambition, and untamed beauty.
Leschi Park, Seattle, 1899. Seattle's Leschi Park opened onto the waters of Lake Washington, with winding paths and wooden piers that invited leisure. On this spring day of 1899, visitors strolled calmly, framed by evergreens and simple structures. It was a glimpse of serenity in a rapidly modernizing city. Ticket office for steamer Greyhound, Everett, 1899. This modest wooden ticket office in Everett served passengers boarding the steamer Greyhound for the Seattle-Everett route. Families, workers, and travelers gathered with bicycles and baggage awaiting the journey. The building's simple form reflected an era when steam travel was the lifeline connecting Puget Sound's growing towns. Old Capitol Building and Sylvester Park, Olympia, 1899. The old Capitol building, completed in 1892, stands proudly in Olympia's skyline, its Romanesque revival style marking the ambitions of Washington's young statehood. Once the Thurston County Courthouse, it later served as the Capitol from 1905 to 1929. In front, Sylvester Park offered townspeople a peaceful gathering place. Pioneer Square, Seattle. In 1896, Pioneer Square stood as the bustling heart of early Seattle, where wooden docks met brick buildings and commerce flowed with the tide. Steamships crowded the waterfront, carrying timber, goods, and hopeful settlers. This place, still vibrant today, was once the city's frontier stage of ambition and grit.
Looking north at Front Street from James Street, Seattle, 1895. Front Street, now called First Avenue, appears here as a symbol of Seattle's rebirth after the Great Fire of 1889. Brick facades, streetcars, and pedestrians filled the scene, reflecting a city in motion. Commerce, energy, and resilience combine, marking the dawn of a stronger, modern Seattle. The Denny Hotel, Seattle, 1895. Perched on Denny Hill, the Denny Hotel stood as a grand but unfinished dream. Construction was halted by the Panic of 1893, leaving its turrets looming over the city like a silent castle. Later revived as the Washington Hotel, it became a symbol of Seattle's resilience and ambition. Madison Street Cable Railway Company Barn, Seattle, 1890. This wooden powerhouse and barn stored Seattle's cable cars, a leap beyond horse-drawn streetcars. With tall windows and a chimney rising above, the structure symbolized innovation and growth. It was here that the city's expanding network of rail lines found its strength, fueling daily life and urban transformation. Train Depot, Franklin, Washington, 1890. In the coal-rich Green River Gorge, Franklin thrived as a mining town. This photo captures a train at the depot around 1890, with wooden houses scattered on the hillside. The mine fueled Seattle's growing industry, but the town itself would fade into history, later absorbed into Green River Gorge State Park.
Colfax, Washington, looking north, 1889. Nestled in the rolling hills of Whitman County, Colfax appears as a growing frontier town in this 1889 view. Wooden homes and small businesses cluster near the Palouse River, with farmland stretching into the horizon. The scene captures a community balancing rural life with the promise of expansion. LeConner, Washington, 1889. This 1889 view of LeConner shows a modest waterfront town framed by evergreens. Wooden buildings line the shoreline, with docks reaching into the water, a reminder of the settlement's deep connection to trade and fishing. The quiet scene reflects both isolation and resilience in early Skagit Valley life. Olympia, Washington, 1889. This historic photo captures the inauguration of Elisha P. Ferry, the first governor of Washington, in Olympia, 1889. A crowd gathers on horseback and on foot outside the territorial capital, decorated with flags for the ceremony. The moment marks Washington's first step into statehood, filled with pride and anticipation. Aftermath of the Great Seattle Fire, 1889. The ruins of the Great Seattle Fire stretched across downtown in 1889. Sparked by a carpenter's glue pot, the inferno devoured blocks of wooden buildings. When the flames finally died, nearly the entire business district lay in ashes, forcing Seattle to rebuild stronger, this time in brick and stone.
Tacoma, Washington, 1888. Perched on the hillside, Tacoma spreads out in neat rows of homes, churches, and wooden buildings overlooking the harbor. This late 19th century view shows a city rapidly expanding, driven by the Northern Pacific Railroad and its thriving port. The steep terrain framed a bustling town, eager to define its place in Washington's future. Main Street, Olympia, 1887. Looking south along Olympia's Main Street, the scene captures a lively town on the rise. Wooden storefronts line the unpaved road, where horses, buggies, and streetcar tracks share space with townsfolk and even stray dogs. Telegraph poles signal progress as Olympia grows into Washington's capital city. First Avenue and James Street, Seattle, 1886. In 1886, the heart of Seattle bustled with horse-drawn streetcars clattering down First Avenue. For just a nickel, riders could travel across the young city, pulled by steady horses along 3 miles of track. This early transit system became a symbol of progress and modern convenience for Seattle's residents. Port Townsend, Washington, 1885. This elevated view of Port Townsend around 1885 looks down Adams Street toward the harbor. Rows of wooden homes and businesses line the hillside, reflecting the town's growth during the territorial period. Positioned along Puget Sound, Port Townsend was already becoming a vital maritime hub of Washington Territory.
Blackman Bros. General Store, Snohomish, Washington, 1885. This photograph captures the Blackman Brothers General Store at the corner of First Street and Avenue C in Snohomish. Around 1885, the store was a vital hub for local residents, offering hardware and supplies to a growing lumber town. Wagons, horses, and townsfolk gather outside, reflecting daily life in early Washington. Waterman and Cott's Mercantile Store, Port Townsend, Washington, 1885. This early storefront of Waterman and Cott's, founded in 1862, reflects Port Townsend's thriving mercantile trade. 2 horse teams with carts stand ready outside, serving William Lausbach and Ben Shortswood's establishment. The scene captures a bustling moment of commerce, where goods and wagons linked the frontier town to wider markets. Scamoqua, Washington, 1885. A riverside community nestled between forested hills and the Columbia River, Scamoqua thrived on timber and river trade. Sawmills and docks line the waterfront, where logs float downstream and small boats navigate the channel. This view captures the harmony of industry and settlement shaping frontier life in the Pacific Northwest. Main Street, Colfax, Washington, 1885. A wide dirt road stretches into the horizon, lined with wooden storefronts on both sides. Businesses advertise wagons and goods, while planks and timber lay scattered across the center of the street. The scene reflects a raw, growing frontier town,
where commerce and settlement shaped life in Washington's Palouse country. Wilcox, Whitman County, Washington, 1885. In the small town of Wilcox, teams of horses pull heavy wagons along a wide dirt road. Modest wooden houses stand in neat rows against the rolling hills, a backdrop to the steady rhythm of frontier life. The scene captures the resilience of settlers, building new roots in Washington's countryside. Crane Saloon, Walla Walla, 1885. This photograph captures the Crane Saloon in Walla Walla around 1885, with a group of men and a woman posed outside its entrance. Owned by Robert Crane, chief engineer of the fire department, the saloon was both a gathering place and a landmark of frontier life in Washington Territory. 8th Street, Hoquiam, 1884. This photograph of Hoquiam around 1884 shows 8th Street, lined with tall false front buildings, including the New York store. Wooden sidewalks and telegraph poles flank the muddy road, where horse-drawn wagons once passed. The scene reflects the rapid transformation of this lumber town as commerce and industry carved permanence into Washington's rugged coast. Columbia Street in Snow, Seattle, 1883. This rare winter scene captures Columbia Street in downtown Seattle, blanketed by snow in 1883. Children and townspeople gather in the middle of the road, framed by rows of early wooden storefronts. The heavy snowfall turns a bustling commercial street into a frozen tableau, a reminder of the town's rugged frontier beginnings. Logs being loaded onto a ship, Seattle, 1880. In the 1880s, Seattle's waterfront echoed with the thunder of timber trade. Towering logs, felled from nearby forests, were hauled onto ships bound for distant markets. Logging fueled the city's growth, but danger lurked in every task. Heavy timbers, sharp saws, and perilous docks claimed lives. Downtown from Denny Hill, Seattle, 1880. This sweeping view from Denny Hill shows a young Seattle rising from the forested landscape. Wooden houses and scattered streets stretch toward Elliott Bay, foreshadowing a city destined for transformation. Within a decade, engineers would reshape this very hill in the ambitious Denny regrade, forever altering Seattle's topography. Snow on Cherry Street, Seattle, 1880. A rare Seattle snowstorm blanketed Cherry Street with over 5 feet of snow, silencing the young city. Wooden storefronts leaned against the weight, while tracks in the white drifts revealed determined footsteps. This frozen moment captures a frontier town tested by nature long before skyscrapers reshaped its skyline. Tacoma, Washington, 1880. Early Tacoma rises on the edge of Puget Sound, its wooden houses clustered against the vast hillside beyond. Newly built streets cut through the settlement, lined with homes and small businesses. This young port city, still rough and raw, stood at the threshold of railroad expansion and maritime trade.
Colfax's North End, Washington, 1880. The photograph shows Colfax's North End, a frontier town nestled along rolling hills. Wooden cabins and businesses cluster around the valley, while a railroad line cuts through the center, symbolizing growth. Colfax, still rustic yet promising, embodied the transformation of Washington Territory into a hub of farming and commerce. Colfax, seen from the western hillside, Washington, 1878. Seen from the western hillside, Colfax stretches along Main and Spring Streets during its territorial days. The Baldwin House Hotel stands prominently, a hub for travelers and commerce. Wooden storefronts and churches cluster tightly below the bare hillside, capturing a frontier town rising from wilderness into permanence. Old Town Hall, Olympia, 1875. Seen from Parker Place on 5th Street, Olympia's Old Town Hall rises above a line of dark evergreens. The simple white wooden structure with its cupola hints at civic pride in a young capital city. Surrounded by natural growth, the building reflects Washington's balance between wilderness and emerging governance. Seattle from 3rd Avenue and Pine Street, 1874. Looking southeast from 3rd Avenue and Pine Street, Seattle reveals its frontier beginnings. Small wooden houses line the hillside, while the Territorial University stands prominently at the left, overlooking the settlement. Forested slopes in the distance remind viewers of the untamed wilderness still pressing against this young city's edge.
Log Cabin School in Palouse, Washington, 1874. This rough-hewn log cabin housed the first school in the Palouse region, about 2 miles from town. Built with stacked timber and a dirt floor, it reflects the resilience of settlers. Teacher Sarah Hughes stands proudly outside, embodying the spirit of frontier education and the hope for a future. 1st Avenue, Seattle, 1874. Looking north from the New England Hotel, Seattle's 1st Avenue in 1874 appears muddy and raw, lined with wooden storefronts and saloons. On the right, the Pony Saloon marks the lively character of the frontier town. Beyond the rough street, trees crown the hills, framing a settlement still in formation. View from 3rd Avenue and Pike Street, Seattle, 1873. Seattle's landscape in 1873 unfolds from this elevated view, dotted with wooden houses and dirt streets. In the distance, the Territorial University stands proudly, a symbol of progress on the frontier. The scene captures a growing town, balancing rugged simplicity with the first signs of civic ambition and permanence. Yesler Way and Yesler's Mill, Seattle, 1873. A plume of smoke rises high from Yesler's steam-powered sawmill, dominating the horizon of early Seattle. The dirt street is scattered with wood debris, a reminder of the city's rough beginnings. Simple storefronts line the road, while the mill itself stands as the engine of growth and transformation in Puget Sound.
Occidental Hotel from Occidental Ave S and S Main Street, Seattle, 1872. The Occidental Hotel rises prominently at the intersection, its sturdy wooden frame marking Seattle's early ambitions. The dirt road leading up to it is rough and uneven, with carts and wooden planks scattered across the ground. Modest houses surround the area, while the hotel itself stands as a landmark of frontier growth. East side of 1st Ave S between S Washington Street and S Main Street, Seattle, 1870. A lively row of storefronts lines the dirt street, their wooden facades advertising variety and household goods. Men in hats gather along the boardwalk, giving the street a sense of bustle. In the distance, Seattle's hillside rises with scattered homes, capturing the young city's growing commercial heart. Vicinity of 2nd Ave and Cherry Street, Seattle, 1869. In this early winter view, rough wooden cabins stand against a snowy hillside, framed by tall evergreens. Carson Boren's 1852 cedar cabin once marked this spot, later sold to W.N. Bell. The modest two-story structure seen here foreshadowed the future site of Seattle's Hogue Building. Yesler's Cookhouse, Seattle, 1866. Built from hewed logs in 1853, Yesler's Cookhouse became Seattle's first real gathering place. Here, pioneers shared meals, sang, laughed, prayed, and even held court sessions. Standing beside Yesler's Mill, it pulsed with the life of a young town where settlers and native people still crossed daily paths. Commercial Street looking north, Seattle, 1865. Seattle's Commercial Street in 1865 reflects a frontier town built on timber and ambition. Wooden storefronts, including Doc Maynard's hospital and early businesses, line the muddy road against a backdrop of tall evergreens. This modest street would become the foundation of a growing city, where resilience and trade shaped the future. First Avenue South from Washington Street, Seattle, 1865. Looking north along First Avenue South in 1865, Seattle's frontier spirit is evident in its wooden storefronts and scattered homes. The muddy street carried the hopes of settlers carving out a town on Puget Sound. Behind the modest facades, a city of trade, resilience, and ambition was quietly taking root. Early buildings in Mukilteo, Washington, 1862. Perched above Puget Sound, Mukilteo's earliest buildings stood as markers of a settlement in transition. These wooden structures belonged to the first pioneers who shaped Snohomish County's history. By 1861, Mukilteo briefly served as county seat before it shifted to Snohomish, leaving behind these weathered homes that still whispered beginnings.
Street scene, Port Townsend, Washington, 1862. This early photograph captures Port Townsend's growing Main Street, lined with hotels and businesses that promised opportunity on the edge of Puget Sound. Wooden storefronts faced muddy roads where townsfolk gathered, reflecting a community still shaping its identity. Each signboard and doorway told stories of ambition, resilience, and frontier trade. Yesler Residence, Seattle, 1860. Henry Yesler's sawmill transformed Seattle's future, marking the city's first steam-powered mill on Puget Sound. His home stood nearby, overlooking timber, rough roads, and the growing settlement. Beyond milling, Yesler shaped Seattle's landscape through real estate and trade, anchoring a frontier town destined to become a bustling Pacific city. Fort Vancouver, Washington Territory, 1859. In 1859, Fort Vancouver stood as a remote yet vital outpost in the Pacific Northwest. Its wooden structures rose against the evergreen forest, housing traders, settlers, and soldiers. Once the Hudson's Bay Company's hub, it later became a U.S. Army post, anchoring America's expansion into the region.
From Franklin's coal trains to Olympia's first statehood ceremony, these images remind us that Washington's story was born from determination and daring. In their faded tones, we see courage carved into mountains and communities bound by hope. These aren't just photographs, they are windows into the soul of a new state,